I think there's a tendency sometimes once you've established yourself that maybe you
Mhm.
can take the foot off the pedal. But
Yeah.
if you're really driving for accelerated growth in your career, there's no taking your foot off the pedal. Like even once you've achieved success, now you're the leader. You need to be showing the younger guys and gals, I'm the one who's here early in the morning. I'm here late at night, and I'm driving results and I'm delivering just as much as I was. I think, but your job shifts where oftentimes by the time you're in the mid level, you have some responsibility for other traders, right?
Right.
So the other shift that happens is it's no longer just about you. So
Yeah.
your success, it's like having kids, it's no longer just about you and your own personal development. Part of your success is how well is your team performing?
Mm.
And one of the things I love to say is the people who groom talent for me within the group, and they know who they are because I poach their people all the time. They always complain, I just trained this person and now you're poaching them for another role. And I'm like, but those are the people I value the most because
Yeah.
they are talent generators on my behalf. Not only are they doing their job, but
Mhm.
they're also these talent generators. So as you become a mid-tier person and you have teams underneath you, you want to be that talent generator.
Mm.
The other thing that I think happens from time to time is people kind of get a bit lost when they get into that mid tier. Is sometimes they get stuck, and they're
Yeah.
kind of like just doing the same thing over and over and over. And one of the things that we do here is we do mid career education. So we first start out with a program called the Sparks program. So it's for people who've been with us for 3 to 5 years.
Mhm.
They might have more years of experience than that. Some of them have 10 years of experience. But the idea is that they're going to go back into some management training and they're going to go back into some of the soft skills and they're going to go back into some of the things that maybe they had learned before, but they need a refresher course on it. And it's in tandem with a program in Boston with Harvard University to get a certificate at the end of completion. And those are people who usually are very selected at a high level. It's not very
Mhm.
many who get accepted into the program, but they're people that we recognize have reached that middle level and now they need a bit more training to be able to keep moving higher.
Mm.
But it doesn't have to be an organized program. If your company doesn't offer that, you have to challenge yourself to never stop learning.
Yeah.
Some people go out and become certified financial analysts, do the CFA exams. Some
Mhm.
people might do an MBA on their own, might do night classes of an MBA. So people always have ways, but you can never really stop learning. So I think those are keys. And then for me, one of the key things that a lot of people don't do is there's this review process, right? We all set our KPIs for the year. And you get to the end of the year, and there's kind of like this awkward conversation with your boss where he probably likes you. He's going to be generous to you. And he's going to
Right.
say, oh, you did an amazing job. You really crushed it. Your KPIs were great. Well done. And then you move on. But if you're at a mid tier, the thing you need is not your boss to tell you how amazing of a job you're doing. You need your
Mhm.
boss to tell you what are the gaps in your knowledge and in your learning today that would
Mhm.
prevent you from taking the next step up. So you should actively be asking them, what are the skills that I don't have today that would prevent me from being able to take the next level up? What are the things that I need to be working on? And I'll give you a clear example. I called up one of my managing directors in Africa and I said, I want you to move back to Europe.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys would be pretty excited about it. He's British, so you would say, okay, he's going back home. It's exciting. He's like, I don't
Yeah.
want to leave. I love it here. This
Yeah.
this is the best place I've ever had. I've spent all these years building up this organization. I love my team. I love the country. I want to stay. And I said, yeah, but you're also somebody who's ambitious and want to have a bigger career, right?
Mhm.
And he said, yeah, of course I am. And I said, remember the pyramid, the building blocks of knowledge that we need to do? He's like, yeah, yeah. And I said, you've done all the knowledge on the origination side, on the buying coffee side, but you've never dealt on the client side. When there's a late shipment, where there's a rejection on arrival,
Mhm.
when there's these problems in facing the client, having to go out and sell to the client, having to open up new doors, like you don't have those experiences. If you want to have my job someday,
Yeah.
you need to understand not only the origination side, but you also need to understand the sales and the client management side of things. And you
Mm.
need to go through the pains of what happens because Origin doesn't fully execute to be able to have that 360 view of what true performance in an organization is, where both your origins and your destinations are working in sync and operating on point. So,
Mm.
so he took the role and he did it. And, a couple years later, he called me up and he's like, thank you so much. I never could have imagined how much I didn't know.
Mm.
And so that was an example where, if I hadn't specifically told him, this is something you need to do for your career, maybe it never would have come up. So if you're at that mid-career place and you're kind of feeling a bit stuck, openly talk to your whether it's your boss or your mentor or somebody in the company and just say, listen, I don't need praise. You don't have to, beat me down and tell me I'm horrible at everything, but what are the gaps that you think I might have, or what is the knowledge that I need to acquire to really take that next step up? And then always critical that I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about hiring or not hiring, about promoting somebody is I say, well, I have to replace the person, right?
Yeah.
If that person has done a great job of training somebody underneath them who can fill their role, it's a
Mm.
lot easier to move them into a new role and into a new position. If I, by pulling them out, I'm going to take a very successful origin and it's going to collapse and not be successful, I'm very hesitant to pull that person out.
Yeah.
So there comes a point where you have to be willing to train your successor. And they have to, the more you have somebody who's ready to fill your shoes, the more you can actually be pulled out of a position and put into a new position, a new role, a new responsibility. So I think it's really just striving to, always execute on your business, always be opening to how you can grow, but recognizing it's not all about you. It's also about how much talent you generate for the company. And hopefully you're generating your own successor, which then frees you up to then go fill that knowledge gap that you have that you need to do to then continue to advance up your career.